Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the East Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my counterpart on the East Coast, as always, Nate Weitzer. Another fine article up on playpicks.com for you guys tonight. Some best bets, DFS strategy stuff we'll get into here in just a second. As always, if you do need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find all those local listings in your area and make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Jump in the comments, continue talking to us about who you guys are betting and what you want to hear about. And we'll jump into those lines for tonight, Nate, for April the 29th.
Yeah, well, we got a 6-game slate here with some pretty intriguing matchups, starting with the Mavs -9 at Pistons. Pistons are resting their veterans tonight. The Nets now down -8.5 at Pacers, who are without Domantas Sabonis and Miles Turner. Bucks -12.5 at Rockets. Warriors are -3 at the Wolves. Pelicans -9 at Thunder. And the Raptors +3 at Nuggets. I'm kind of intrigued by those games that both have a 9-point spread with the Nets and the Pacers, but I'll let you lead off with one that's a little bigger than that.
Yeah, the Bucks and Rockets talk about two differing teams, and especially in lately. We know John Wall is out for the rest of the season. Just to give you the other laundry list of players not playing for Houston tonight, or almost definitely not. You got DJ Augustine, Avery Bradley, Sterling Brown, Dante Exum, Eric Gordon, Dan Wellhouse, and David Nwaba, all unlikely to play or already ruled out. And the Bucks are trending in the right direction, considering that, the last 7 games they've had their big three back together. And in that time frame, and especially in the last 6, they're 5-1 against the spread. And in the last 6 games, when they're the favorite by 8.5 or more points, such as the case tonight, they're actually also 5-1 in that time frame against the spread. As far as the total, I am actually eyeing the under, considering what Houston does not have all over the floor, and considering that in the last few games for Milwaukee when they're on the road, and it's been the case this season for the most part, but especially in recent history. The Bucks are giving up, 107 points a game on the road. They're only scoring 112 points per game on the road, which is a 12-point difference from what they score at home. Much better on offense at home, much more likely to blow out teams at home. But at the end of the day, what you're seeing from Houston without everybody playing, and especially without Wall, they're 3-19 this year straight up without him, with an 116 defensive rating. At home, when they're underdogs, they're 3-19 straight up. Even when they have a rest advantage, they're 3-11 against the spread this year. So there's not much to really look for other than perhaps, Christian Wood having a nice season and Kelly Olynyk maybe hitting some threes and a nice sort of pick and pop play with a couple of the guys on Houston. But other than that, I think, I don't feel too scared of a really big spread for Milwaukee, who's covered nicely against bad teams with big spreads. And I am going to look at the under here and think that this game will be pretty quick, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, this is my most confident bet of the night. I graciously yield to you to lead it off because, the Bucks just crush bad teams, as we mentioned, when they barely covered that spread against the Hornets, but they got it done, another double-digit win. And the Rockets have 32 double-digit losses this year, obviously the most in the league. They have not had a home court advantage, so I'm not down with the under because of what you're saying, that sometimes the Bucks go to a place where there is a home court advantage, or I don't know what it is, that they score less. These teams are 4th and 5th in pace recently, so I'm a little frightened of that, just considering Milwaukee can get to 130 on their own. But I do expect them to blow doors off the Rockets, who allow the most fast break points per game, which is really key when you talk about a Giannis-led team. No problem for the Bucks in this matchup. The Pacers, speaking of pace, are hosting the Nets, and as we've mentioned, Indy has been the fastest playing team in the league over their last 12, top 10 offensive rating, and 8 of those 12 have gone over. Books continue to underestimate the appetite for their overs. This one opened around 236, and it's now at 240. It'll probably keep climbing.
Yeah.
And if it's over 240, then I'm out on that. As much as there is a lot of pace to be played and a lot of offense to be scored when Kevin Durant is out there, the Nets scoring 122 and they're number one in offensive rating their last 12. That's just too big of a total. Brooklyn has actually been playing some defense lately, and I think that they turn up a little bit in that regard. But my preferred bet is, of course, you might predict this, being Dr. Revenge and all. Karis LeVert over 22.5 points. My man was traded away. Houston didn't want him, apparently. Obviously had the scary time off, surgery, and now he's been rolling again. He's averaging 21 points per game in his last 10 home games. We're talking about him getting over 22.5 at pretty much even money against his former team with no Domantas Sabonis. His usage rate goes way up. And the Pacers are scoring 119 points per game without Domantas. The Nets, not necessarily known as a wing stopper. We don't know if Bruce Brown's going to be out there tonight. They don't have Claxton. So you're talking about Blake Griffin and Jeff Green being your rim protectors. I think LeVert has a pretty easy time getting to the rim. And then the Nets, as they do, will turn it up in the fourth quarter to get that win. I don't know about them covering 8.5, but I think they're an appealing teaser to get them down to maybe 4.5 tonight.
Yeah, I'm with it. I think if you want to use the game against the Raptors the other night sort of as your measuring stick for what they're capable of, I mean, KD being on the floor actually does help their defense a lot. Not strangely enough, he's been very good for a few years now, individually, defensively, protecting the rim as well. But I do think that you'll see a lot of points tonight, and I do actually really respect that Karis LeVert revenge factor tonight hugely. Might be looking at him in some DFS plays as well. Moving on real quick, Nate, to a game that it's interesting to me right now. The Nuggets and the Raptors, there's a lot of varying, almost opposing angles in this game. You've got Denver coming off, the second leg of a back-to-back after a nice late win against the Pelicans last night. Jokic actually had a nice play at the end of the game there to stop Zion, or otherwise that might have gone to overtime. And Denver's not great on the second leg of back-to-backs this season, but they are at home. And I'm going to continue to push Denver at home. And especially even after a win, just starting there 26-13 straight up this year after a win. And at home, as I mentioned, they're 21-7 when they're their home favorite specifically. They played very well against the Eastern Conference, 17-8 this year against them. Conversely, Toronto sputtering a bunch against the Western Conference in recent history, 9-14 against the spread this year against the conference. So I think Toronto, they've looked a lot better recently, but I don't like this matchup for them as Denver's continuing to prove that they're, still in the mix right now without Jamal Murray. They're, won 7 of their last 8 games straight up. This month, they're 9-1 with a super nice offensive rating at 117, good for about top 5 in the league. And you look at why they're so good on offense right now. Michael Porter Jr. has picked up the slack and then some. You're not seeing him, make plays the same way Jamal Murray did off the dribble, maybe necessarily in that pick and roll with Jokic, but he's shooting 8 threes a game and making 52% of them over his last 8 games. He's averaging 26 points, 7.5 boards. Last night he had a big game against the Pelicans, 28-8. So I think he's just a matchup problem for too many people at standing at 6'10" with the ability to shoot over everybody. And I think you're going to continue to see that. I don't think it's a fluke from him. Toronto does struggle a bit against wing defenders, despite the fact that Khem Birch has come back for them and been pretty good down low. They're still giving up a ton of 3-pointers a game. And I think that Denver will be able to take care of them at home with a small spread that's actually dwindling. It's down to about 2 or 2.5, depending on where you see it.
Yeah, this is a rare situation where the team that's on the back-to-back somehow seems to have an advantage just because Toronto has not been home all year and they have not done well when they have to go on the road. They just faced the Nets 2 nights ago. So they failed to cover in 9 of their last 10 road games. And going into Denver, which is a legit home court advantage, especially with that altitude, you've seen the home team win the last 4 meetings between these squads. I definitely expect Denver to pull it out. They've won 14 straight home games when it's a nighttime start, excluding, one daytime loss. So, yeah, they've been absolutely reliable. Jokic is just an absolute problem, especially for Toronto, since they refuse to play Aaron Baines, they don't really have the bodies to match up with them. Khem Birch, not really, more of a natural power forward. And, Jokic just continues MVP campaign. So reliable, even on back-to-backs. Speaking of reliable, I think you can bank on the Thunder to go back to their tanking ways after a stunning win in Boston. Some speculation that maybe they actually tried because Coach Dagnall is from Massachusetts. So maybe he just wanted to get a win in the Garden, and win they did. But otherwise, they've lost 14 of their last 15 with the third worst defensive rating. And do they like to play fast, though? They're first in pace over the last 5 games, and the Pellies are second in pace. 5 of the last 6 home games for OKC have gone over, and they're allowing 127.8 points per game at home in that span. That's up from allowing 123 in general during that 15-game putrid stretch. Giving up 11 offensive rebounds per game. New Orleans is the best offensive rebounding team out there. They're giving up the 4th most paint points. New Orleans scores the 2nd most paint points. And they're giving up the 6th highest clip inside the arc, and New Orleans is 4th on shooting inside the arc. Zion just ripped right through this defense in a meeting earlier this season, 29 points on 12 of 17 shooting. The Pelicans, their team total, which I've said to you, I think is kind of a nice little hack in this type of matchup, because you're banking either on the blowout, in which case they're definitely going over 120 points. It sits at 119 right now. Or you're banking on just a fast-paced back-and-forth game. As I mentioned, these teams are top 5 in pace, and the Pelicans will absolutely oblige you if you want to try to shoot it out with them. The weaponry they have, especially now that Alonzo Ball is healthy, they've really ramped it up in their last 4 games where he's gotten 30-plus minutes. They've had no trouble with OKC, averaging 115 points per game their last 3 meetings. And against a team that's not trying and not even playing anyone with size down low, like Moses Brown gets out there for 7 minutes and then he takes a seat. Yeah. I think you got to like Zion props, Zion bonuses, and just the Pelicans getting a ton of points tonight.
Totally. Even if any of those young big men play for the Thunder like Moses Brown, I don't think Zion will have much trouble getting around them and over them tonight. And I do like, the points with Lou Dort, likely to play tonight for them. They at least have somebody that they can go to on offense to get his own shot, or at least make a shot. So I at least feel good about that over tonight too. I do think that the team total is nice, but I feel comfortable with the game total as well in that one. So how about some DFS plays for us tonight, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, Lou Dort, if he's playing, gotta like him. As I mentioned, Lonzo and Zion, strong plays. I like O'Shea Brissett in that Pacers game. Since they have nobody down low. Blake Griffin should play well tonight, and then maybe sit on the second leg of a back-to-back. Isaiah Stewart is going to be a great value. The Pistons, as I mentioned, sitting Jeremy Grant, Mason Plumlee, and Corey Joseph. So I'd also look at Frank Jackson as a cheap play. Josh Jackson is coming back tonight. Those guys should do some heavy lifting. You can look at Trey Burke on the other side for the Mavs. He's been starting with Josh Richardson out and giving them a big lift. Facundo Campazzo has been reliable without Jamal Murray. He's starting to ramp up. I don't love the matchup tonight, though. I think you do like some plays from the Raptors side of the ball, though. OG is going to see a lot of run trying to stop Michael Porter Jr., and he has been on a roll in his last 5. And Kem Birch is going to do his best against Jokic, so that at least guarantees him some minutes.
Yep, at least he's going to get minutes with Chris Boucher still out with a knee injury. Kem Birch, probably a decent play, mostly from what we consider the 4 spot, even though they have him running at 5 a lot as well. That is all the time we have for today, Nate. Please remember to like and subscribe to that video. Jump in the comments. We'll be in there checking out who you guys are betting on tonight. We'll be back with another nice slate tomorrow night. And as for tonight, happy betting.